Today is Thursday, April 23rd. And this is our read aloud for Out of My Mind. Last time we left off with Mrs. V convincing Melody that she should be a part of the Whiz Kids team, the trivia competition. And they went back and forth and they were teasing each other. And then Melody reveals that the answer format for the trivia is an ABCD, multiple choice. So Mrs. V really thinks that Melody can handle the trivia game. Multiple choice? Wonderful! Piece of cake for you. I wasn't sure about that, but I didn't disagree with her. She went to her computer and found a web page that listed every US state and capital. Did those in school, I told her. Great, so we'll do them again. I fake groaned. Mrs. V then looked up the capitals of all the major countries in the world. Gee, there sure are a lot of countries, but once she read them out loud to me, I had the info stuck in my head. What's the capital of Hungary? She demanded. I knew the answer was Budapest before she even gave me the four choices. A. Accra. B. Berlin. C. New Delhi. D. Budapest. I pushed D, of course. Mrs. V didn't stop to cheer. She just kept going. I correctly answered that Tokyo was the capital of Japan, Addis Ababa the capital of Ethiopia, Ottawa the capital of Canada, and Bogota the capital of Colombia. She quizzed me until Dad came to pick us up. As Mrs. V stuffed Doodle and some unused diapers, back into Penny's bag, she explained briefly what had happened at school and what she planned to do about it, what we were already doing. Are you sure? Dad asked, glancing at me. Maybe we're setting her up for failure and she'll be hurt even worse. I am absolutely positive, Mrs. V insisted. Can Melody stay a little longer to study? I'll give her dinner and bring her home in a couple of hours. That will give you some one-on-one time with Penny. You cool with that? Dad asked me. Yes, 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 I typed. I want to do this. Go for it, my Melody, Dad said. He gave Mrs. V a thumbs up sign and left with Penny. After dinner, we moved on to science. I learned that the bones in the leg are the femur, the tibia, the patella, and the fibula. Why can't they just call them something easy like knee bone and skinny leg bone? But I memorized them. I learned that insects are arthropods and that they have tibias too. The study of insects is called entomology, Mrs. V said. That gives me an idea. Let's learn all the words that end in ology. I put my hand over my head and pretended to groan, but deep inside I was really jazzed. Which word means the study of words and their meanings? She asked me after we had reviewed a very long list of ology words. A. Bibliography. B. Archaeology. C. Histology. D. Lexicology. I thought for a minute. I knew she was trying to trick me. Histology sounds like history, but for some reason I think it has to do with skin. And bibliography has to do with books, not words. I typed in the letter D. This time, she did cheer. Let me get you home, Melody. Top athletes need their sleep. We'll do some more tomorrow. I grinned at her, tired and energized at the same time. Mrs. V had called Catherine and explained this situation, told her to stuff information into my head along with the macaroni at lunch. So the next morning, Catherine, of course, jumped right in. While we were in room H5, Catherine hooked me up on the earphones. I listened to an old audio cassette on volcanoes. It was scratchy and skipped a little, but it gave me information. Volcanoes were named for the Roman god Vulcan. I could have figured that one out myself. I found out about lava and ash. I learned about how the whole city of Pompeii got covered up when Vesuvius erupted. Surprisingly interesting stuff. I listened to tapes on Australia and Russia, on constellations and on the planets. You learning anything from those oldies but goodies? Catherine asked as she slipped in another tape for me. It was on diseases. Info always good, I typed. I feel you, she replied. Are you still upset about what happened in Mr. Dimming's class? Deleted the memory. Need room for facts. I took the time to type. She gave me a thumbs up. I am a little scared, I admitted. Suppose I mess up? You can do this, Melody, she said sternly as she adjusted the earphones. You certainly have enough smarts to be on the team. Go away while I take the test, I typed. Keeps Claire quiet. Gotcha, Catherine said. She held her hand up to slap my palm. It wasn't much of a slap, more like a mushy grab, but we were on the same page. Except for lunch and recess, I listened to tapes and worked with Catherine the rest of the day. She quizzed me on facts and dates and kings and math. That might be hard for me. Words flow easily into my head, but numbers seem to sink to the bottom like rocks. I don't know why. Let's do it again, Catherine said gently as I got mixed up on a math problem about trains and their speed. Nobody rides trains anymore, anyways. Who cares? But she kept at it until it made sense to me. I discovered that if I make numbers into a picture story in my mind, the answers come easier. I changed the figures to words. Magic. Instead of going out for inclusion classes, I shook my head and told Catherine I didn't want to go. I wanted to stay and study instead. Evidently, I wasn't missed. Nobody sent a frantic message to room H5 wondering why Melody wasn't in class today. Nobody peeked their head in the door to see if I was absent or sick or maybe having a convulsion in the middle of the floor. Nobody seemed to notice at all. Chapter 19. The week zipped by. I stayed at school every day with Catherine, after school every day with Mrs. V, and every evening at home as well. I reviewed words from all the levels of my board. I practiced spelling long words and matching facts and dates. I made up my own games. Mom quizzed me about flowers and medical terms. Dad asked me questions about economics and retail management and sports. I swallowed it all. Sometimes I sit in my room and just type in new sentences for Elvira to say, one letter at a time. It takes hours. But once an entry is in, all I have to do is push one button and the whole sentence will be spoken for me. I guess the question I get asked the most, and a lot of strange variations, is, what's wrong with you? People often want to know if I'm sick, or if I'm in pain, or if my condition can be fixed. So I prepared two answers, one that is polite but kind of wordy, and one that is a little smart-mouthed. To those who are genuinely concerned, I push a button to say, I have spastic bilateral quadriplegia, also known as cerebral palsy. It limits my body, but not my mind. I think that last part is pretty cool. To people like Claire and Molly, I say, we all have disabilities. What's yours? I couldn't wait to use that one. When I showed Mrs. V, she laughed so hard she snorted. Now it's the Saturday before the tryouts, and Mrs. V and I are sitting outside on her front porch. I'm wearing a light jacket, but it's one of those rare, warm February days that fools the hyacinths into thinking spring is here. I want to warn the little buds and say, wait, it's going to snow next week. Stay put for another month. But every year, the early spring flowers shiver in the last snow of the season. We watch wisps of clouds hover over us. A canary-colored goldfinch is perched on the railing, looking at the empty bird feeder dangling above it. If he could talk, I bet he'd ask for thistle and more warm days like this. What would you do if you could fly? Mrs. V asks as she glances from the bird to me. Is that on the quiz? I ask, grinning as I type. I think we've studied just about everything else, Mrs. V chuckles. I'd be scared to let go, I type. Afraid you'd fall? She asks. No, afraid it would feel so good I'd just fly away. It took me a long time to type that. She is quiet for a very long time. Finally, she says, you are a bird, Melody, and you will fly on Monday when you take the test. I hear our front door slam shut next door, and I wave to Mom and Penny as they wander over to the porch. Butterscotch, clearly happy to be unleashed, bounds next to them, sniffing the base of every tree. Penny walks with such determination, her face alternating between frowns and smiles as she concentrates on marching down the path between her two houses, then climbing the front steps with both hands and both feet. She's wearing her puffy winter jacket and the hat of the day, a blue straw thing that is scrunched and crooked from her sitting on it so many times. Poor Doodle, of course, drags behind her. Dee-Dee! She cries as she finally gets to the top step. I'm still boggled by how easily she does stuff. I touch the sleeve of Mrs. V's dress as I think about what she asked me. Freedom, I type, pointing at Penny. Freedom. Mrs. Valencia nods. She understands. What a glorious day, Mom says, breathing deeply. You think we're done with winter? More cold coming, I type. You're right, but it sure is a nice preview, Mom says as she unzips Penny's jacket. How's the study team progressing? Butterscotch rests at the bottom of the steps. I swear the dog looks like she's smiling.